Hola, buenos días. Soy Nico.
Y'all angry, y'all upset, y'all cursing me out, y'all writing 10 fucking page paragraphs, but at the end of the day, I'm still gonna be who I am.
And today we're here to discuss something that was popular on social media a couple of weeks ago that I just did not have the time to get to because I had more pressing matters to get to. Nico, I've discussed this conversation a few times, and each time I'm wary of it because the levels of ignorance that come back into the comments is just ridiculous and overwhelming at times. So, just a precursor. Before social media, when I was working in retail, I also worked with UT Health on the HIV prevention team. So I am actually educated in prevention, treatment, and also just how you actually contract the disease. So moving forward, just know that my stance is going to be based in logic and reason because a lot of bitches do not like to use their reasoning skills and they just avoid logic like the plague. But we are going to move forward. But before we get started, if you like this kind of content, make sure to follow me on patreon.com/Nicosaesthetics for more exclusive lives, weekly videos, be a part of the podcast, which is debuting every Thursday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to try to upload at least a month and a half worth of videos again tonight. So going forward, keep your eye out for it tomorrow. But now let's move on to the actual topic. So today we are going to be talking about King of Reads. Nico, who is King of Reads? He is a YouTuber. If you take his name off of YouTube and into any other space, it's usually filled with controversy because he has like a very negative spirit. And this is coming from somebody who talks about like, tea and negativity all the time, but you just gotta not be so much of a hater. The reason I personally do not vibe with him, I used to watch his stuff when I was growing up, but when he was asked about me when I first came onto the scene, he called me vapid and that I only get by being light-skinned and muscular, even though on this platform I purposely never show anything below my shoulders, and if I do, I'm fully clothed because I want you guys to actually have a dialogue rather than just fawning over my body. But I digress. Moving forward, he basically got into it with Armon Wiggins. I don't know their history, but it looks like they have static from years ago, where basically he sat down and did a video where he was discussing how when he went into a checkup, he was saying to his doctor that he had a sore throat, symptoms of a cold, and the doctor simply asked, have you been having unprotected sex? And then the obtuse conversation of, well, what is unprotected really begins, because a lot of people fail to understand the concept of contraceptives. Nico. So basically, the dialogue is revolving around King of Reads saying that as a grown adult, he is owed unprotected sex. If he chooses to have unprotected sex, he should be able to without any question, without any, further conversation about that action.
I have been having really, really bad allergies, and I wanted to go to the doctor. I went to the VA, and I sat at the doctor, and I was waiting on them, to see me. And I saw the nurse. So the nurse is asking me these questions, and she's just like, "Hey, what's going on?" I said, "Hey, I've been having a sore throat for about a week, and my allergies have been really, really bothering. I've been doing some research, and I know it sounds like it's post-nasal drip. Like I have really bad allergies." I went there, and the nurse is asking the questions. She's just like, I'm telling her the things, and then she says, "Well, have you been having unprotected sex?" And I'm thinking to myself, like, what if she means unprotected sex? I'm like, I get so shook by the language because it's so outdated. It's so outdated. What the is unprotected sex? Let me tell you something. Let me zoom the camera right on in. This is probably not gonna be zoomed in. If I'm sucking dick, 9 times out of 10, there's no condom on it. If I'm eating ass, 9 times out of 10, there's no dental dam on it. If I'm getting my sucked, it ain't gonna have no condom on it. If I'm topping, there ain't gonna probably be no condom. If I'm bottoming, which rarely ever happens, if it does happen, probably not gonna use a condom, and I'm okay with that. I am HIV positive, and I am entitled to condomless sex.
And that is true. You know, as an adult, as two consenting adults, you two are able to come to the agreement that you will not be using protection. But when the conversation of protected sex comes up, I roll my eyes whenever people say, what is protected sex? What is unprotected condoms? Condoms, dental dams. Nico, because he actively went through the list of, okay, well, if I'm topping, if I'm bottoming, you know, hopping on top, back shots like bongos, I'm not going to be using protection. If I'm slinging neck, you know, good session, I am not going to be using protection. And as an adult, I am taking responsibility of that. That I completely agree with and understand. But if you can list the ways that you can have protected sex, then you know what protected sex is. And I'm not even one of those bitches that comes on here and tells y'all have to use a condom, because I don't use a condom every time. If I'm sleeping with somebody new that I do not know their status, or we do not have like that level of understanding, I use protection. Nico, when you see me filming, if you're on that platform, for example, I have gone through the list with those people. I get tested every 3 months. I'm not usually super sexually active outside of filming, so I get tested every 3 months, and I've been on PrEP since I was like 19. So I've just always been alert about my sexual health. But when the conversation of safe sex comes up, a lot of you are obtuse. But I also want to add in that it's a good thing that he listed these things, because a lot of people don't understand. If you are not using a oral condom, you can still catch chlamydia, syphilis, gonorrhea, the big H. You may not be able to catch HIV unless you have like lacerations in your mouth, but you can still catch everything under the sun just by putting it in your mouth without protection. That's why when the conversation of unprotected sex comes up, I see a lot of people just not know about sexual health. But moving forward, the real dialogue comes in because Armon Wiggins brought up the fact that King of Reeds has actively said that as a positive man of HIV status, he does not have to tell his partners that he is HIV positive. And the thing is, King of Reeds, as he has stated, is undetectable. And a lot of people do not understand that undetectable means the disease is not transmittable whatsoever. There's like a 0.1% chance, and it's just not scientifically logical. But as someone that always talks about consent, as someone that always talks about awareness, you should be telling your partners, if you are having unprotected sex, especially, about your sexual status, because you have to give them the consent and power to say, okay, I am fully aware of the situation and I no longer want to. I understand that it's based in ignorance, but at the same time, that is their bodily choice to decide if they want to have sex with you or not, after they have all of the information in hand. Because when you take it out of the conversation of, oh, well, I'm owed this and I don't have to tell anybody that I'm having sex with my sexual status because I'm now undetectable, you are still withholding critical information that would possibly change their want to have sex with you. And obviously it's based in ignorance and a lack of information, because I honestly rather have sex with someone who is positive and undetectable than someone who does not know their status and doesn't get tested. Because odds are you are more likely to contract HIV from someone who is unaware of their status and is having unprotected sex, compared to somebody who is aware of their status and has been on medication for years. But that's just coming from me, because I've personally dated people that are positive. Like, my long-term serious relationships are usually with someone who is positive. And that's not just because I'm looking for someone positive. It's just because they are still human beings. They still deserve love, respect, romance, sex, etc. But when we have these conversations about sex, you're taking away someone's consent by hiding sexual information that could affect them, even though it's scientifically not probable. So in this particular situation, him saying that he's owed unprotected sex, him saying that he's just not going to disclose his status to his partners, but is still saying that he doesn't want to use a condom, that's what I don't agree with. But at the end of the day, if he really is undetectable, he's not harming anyone, but it's still a grimy situation to purposely withhold that kind of information from your sexual partner who you've already acknowledged you're not going to use protection with. But I definitely want to hear your opinions down below. How do you feel about the conversation of saying that if you are having unprotected sex with someone, you do not have to disclose your sexual status? Because honestly, I feel like if you're at the level of having unprotected, super happy adult fun time with somebody, you should be able to discuss your sexual status, especially if you're enforcing that you do not use protection. For example, one of my long-term exes, I remember when we first started talking, he was like, oh, I don't necessarily like condoms. I am HIV positive, but I am undetectable. And as somebody who had been on PrEP and did his learning process prior to, because I'm from the South, I've talked about my trauma in the past and how when I got outed, I was originally told I was going to die of HIV and AIDS. So I actively just gathered information on the disease and preventatives and all the things that go on. I wasn't necessarily deterred just because I'm like, I'm aware, I'm educated, I'm not ignorant, I don't fearmonger. So I willingly made that decision. I feel like you should be able to give everybody the freedom and the liberty to make that decision. But that's just me. I'm not here to vilify nobody. Nico, I'm just talking about this in particular because Armon Wiggins, you could tell that they have beef and that he tried to spin this into a hyper negative, but at the same time, it's a very entitled and selfish thing to say that I demand unprotected sex. I know the risks, but I'm not going to tell you the full information so you can make a sound decision. That's what I don't agree with. But yes, definitely drop your opinions down below. And did you see the shenanigans? How do y'all feel about the whole back and forth? How do you feel about King of Reeds and the process of refusing to disclose your status, but also demanding that you have unprotected sex? If anything, just make sure that you go into this dialogue without being ignorant and also without calling people outside of their names. Because when it comes to HIV, it is a sensitive topic within our community. And it's devastated our community so much that I don't understand why so many people lack information about it. Why so many people are so ignorant around it and condemn those who have contracted it to a life of solitude and shame. Because whenever somebody came to me, for example, and discussed being HIV positive, there was always an air of nervousness and a fear of being basically discarded because of it. And that's always like affected me personally because these people are still people. They still deserve love. They still deserve companionship. So to consistently hear that they are afraid of dying alone because of something that is usually out of their control, I don't get it. I don't get it. So I never try to put that kind of pain on people. But yes, before I start rambling, I definitely want to hear your opinions down below, and I will see you guys next time. Boom. And now for a brief yet sincere shout out to this week's Third Eye Tier subscribers, Ricky H and PJ. Your continued support is greatly appreciated, and thank you once again to everyone who supports the channel. And this week's live stream discussion will be over nice guys and all that entails. So if that sounds interesting to you, definitely tune in.